The Brave Tin Soldier by Hans Christian Andersen. There were 1 5 and 20 tin soldiers who were a brother, for they had been made out of the same old tin spoon. They saw the rest arm and looked straight before them, and wore a splendid uniform, red and blue. The first thing in the world they ever heard was the words "tin soldier," and the rest by a little boy, who clapped his hand made with delight when the list out the book, in which the lace was taken off. They was given him for a birthday present, and he stood at the table to set them up. The soldier was all except Louis, a last excepting one, who has only one leg. He has been left to the last, and then there was not enough of the medicine to finish him. So they made him to stand firmly on one leg, and discussed him to be very remarkable. The table on which the tin soldier stood was covered with other flashing, but the most attractive to the eye was a pretty little capture castle. Through the smallest windows the rooms could be seen. In front of the castle a number of little trees surrounded a piece of looking glass, which was intended to represent a transparent lake. Swan made our work, swans on the lake, and were reflected in it. All is rosary British, but the prettiest of all was a teeny little lady, who stood as they opened the doors of the castle. She also was made of papers, and she was a of clear muslin, with a narrow blue ribbon over her shoulder, just like a scarf. In front of this first a glittering tinsel rose, the light as her face. The little lady was a dancer, and she stretched out both her arms and rested one of her legs so high that the tin soldier could not see it at all, and he saw that she, like himself, has only one leg. That is the why for me, he thought. But she is too grand and lives in a castle, whilst I have only a box to live in. 5 and 20 of us are together. That is no place for her. Still, I must try and make her acquaintance. Then he let himself at full length On the table behind a snuff box that stood 0.8 so that he could keep at the little delicate ladies who continued to stand on one leg without losing her balance. When came, these other things were placed in the box, and the people out the house went to bed. Then the placing began to have their own game together, to play with it, to have some fights, and to give war. The teen soldier oratored in their book. They wanted to get out and join the amusement, but they could not open the lid. The nutcracker fluttered as leapfrog, and the pencil jumped about the table. There was such a noise that the canaries woke up and began to talk. And in poetry too, only the censorial and the dancer remained in their place. They stood on tiptoes, with her legs stretched out as firmly as he did not his own one leg. He never took his eye from her for even a moment. The clock struck 12, and Wisborne up sprang the lid of the snuff box, but instead of snuff, there jumped up a little black goblin, for the snuff box was a toy pastor. Tin soldier, said the goblin, "Don't whisper what does not belong to you." But the tin soldier pretended not to hear. "Very well, rest till tomorrow," then said the goblin. When the children came in the next morning, they placed the tin soldier in the window. Now, whether it was the goblin who did it, or the truth is not known, but the window flew open, and revealed the tin soldier. Here our heads from the short story into the street beneath. It was a terrible fall. First came his downwards, his helmet, and his bayonet stuck in between the flagstone, and his one leg up in the air. The servant maid and the little boy went downstairs directly to look for him, but he was nowhere to be seen. Also, once this nearly stood upon him, ill he had called out, "Here I am." It would have been all right, but he was too proud to cry out for help while he wore a uniform. Presently, it began to rain, and the drops fell faster and faster, till there was a heavy shower. When it was over, two boys happened to pass by, and one of them said, "Look, there is the tin soldier who is to have about to sailing." So they made a boat out of a newspaper and placed the tin soldier in it and sent him sailing down the gutter, while the two boys ran by the side of it and clapped their hands. Good gracious, good gracious, was like where arose in that scatter, and how fast the stream rolled on, for the rain has been very heavy. The paperboard rocks up and down, and turned itself around sometimes so quickly that the tin soldier trembled, yet he remained firm. His countenance did not change. He looked straight before him, and shouldered his musket. Suddenly the boat shot under a bright with from as parties of a train, and then it was struck as the tin soldier burst. "Where am I doing now?" shouted he. "This is the Black Goblin for am I sure? I am sure. Ah, well, you little lady was only here with me in the boat. I should not care for any darkness." Suddenly there appeared a great water rat who lived in the drain. "Have your passport?" asked the rat. "Give it to me at once." But the tin soldier remained silent and held his musket tighter than ever. The boat sailed on, and the rat followed it. How he did gnash his teeth and cry out to the bit of wood and straw, "Stop him! Stop him! He was not paid toll and has not shown his pass." But the stream rushed on stronger and stronger. The tin soldier could already see the lights shining where the ice indeed. Then she hit a roaring sound, quick, terrible enough to frighten even the bravest man. At the end of the tunnel, the train fills into a large canal over a steep place, which made it as dangerous for him as a waterfall would be to us. He was too close to it to stop, so the boat rushed on, and the protein soldier could only hold himself as stiffly as possible without moving an eyelid to show that he was not afraid. The birds whirled around trees or for charm, and then Frieder whispered her to the over. This worry is nothing could save it from swinging. He now stood up to his neck in water. Once deeper and deeper sank the boat, and the paper became soft and loose with the weight, till at last the water closed over the soldier. He switched off the elegant little danger dancer. Boom! He should never cease again. Even the words of the song sounded in his ear. Farewell, farewell, warriors, ever brave, drifting onwards to Tigray. Then the people brought wheel to peace, and the soldiers sank into the water, and immediately afterwards was swallowed up by a great fish. Oh, how does it burst inside the fish? A great deal darker than in the tunnel, and narrower too, but the tin soldier continues firm and last moment, but at last he became great steels, a stirs while a flash of lightning seemed to pass through him, and then the delight approached, and a voice cried out, I declare, here is passage. Declare, here is the tin soldier. The fish has been caught, taken to the market, and sold to the cook, who took him into the kitchen and cut him open with a large knife. She picked up the soldier and held him by the wrist between her fingers and thumb, and carried him into the room. They were all anxious to see this wonderful soldier who had travelled about inside a fish, but he was not as or brought. They placed him on the table, and how many curious things do happen in the world? There he was in the very same room from the window of which he had fallen. Theirs were the same children, the same flashing, swinging on the table, and the pretty castle with the elegant little dancer at the doors. She still balanced herself on one leg and snapped up the other, so she was as firm as himself. It touched the tin soldier so much to see her death. He almost wept tin soldier, tin tear, but he kept them back. He only looked at her and they both remained silent. Presently, one of the little boys took out the tin soldier and threw him into the stove. He had no reason for doing so. Therefore, it must have been the fault of the black goblin who lives in the snuff box. The flame light up the tin soldier. As he stood, the heat was very terrible, but whether it proceeds from the real fear or from the fear of love he could not tell. Then she could see that the bright colors were faded from his uniform, but wherever they had been washed off during his journey or from the effect of his sorrow, no one could say. He looked at the little lady, and she looked at him. He felt himself melting away. But still remained firm with his gun on his shoulder. Suddenly the door of the room flew open and the thrust of air caught up the little dancer. She fluttered like a seal right into the stove by the side of the tin soldier, and was instantly inflamed and was gone. The tin soldier melted down into a lump, and the next morning, when the maid servant took the ashes out the stove, she found him in the shape of a little tin head, but of the little dancer nothing remained but the tinsel rose, which was burned black as a cinder. The end.